I'm Debanwita Paul, and as its president, I am honored to open today's conference, Equality in Progress, with my vice president, Caroline Pastor, Ambassador Emil Brix, Frau Ministerin Susanne Raab, and Frau Dr. Antonella Mei-Pochtler. Before we start, I would like the audience indulgence on a personal note. When my team and I started this event, we did it with the hope and the excitement and the expectation of true diversity. What we found, however, is that despite it being the 21st century, we have a long way to go as a society to have intersectional diversity. That means in the sense of socioeconomic background, religious background, racial background. It is a shame that even in 2021, we don't have the visibility, example, women of color, people of color, because that only comes from structural and systematic changes to the society that we have today. This conference, therefore, is not about why we need gender equality. It is about why is it taking so long, even today, to achieve that goal. Obviously, none of this diminishes nor negates any of the struggles or the achievements of the speakers that you will hear from today. I can speak for all of us when I say every member of this conference and every single one of us support gender equality in its truest sense of the word and in its most essence, in its essence of the word. And now, much like our tagline, I will conceptualize the start of this conference by passing on the microphone to Vice President Pastor to begin our opening ceremony.
Yes, thank you, Tanya, very much for your introductory words. I would just like to add a few things to that. First and foremost, I would like to thank our hardworking DASICON team, especially our treasurer and our right hand, Marion, our head of speakers, Katharina, our head of sponsors, Constanze, and our head of logistics, Sarah. But of course, I also want to thank everyone else on this committee who has spent really so much time and so much of their free time to make this happen. So thank you very much for your tireless work and your support. But a big thank you also goes to the Diplomatic Academy, without whom this whole conference would not have been possible, for sure. So thank you for being so patient with all of our wishes and needs and helping us making this conference become a reality today. Furthermore, I want to thank all of our sponsors and partners, the City of Vienna, the Embassy of Canada to Austria, and also the Embassy of Switzerland to Austria. And I'm sure that if we were in the Festsaal of the Diplomatic Academy right now, you would all get a very big round of applause. So I hope you can just imagine that for now. Finally, I want to welcome our director, Ambassador Emil Brix, our Deputy Director, Susanne Kepler-Schlesinger, and also our distinguished speakers for this opening panel, the Austrian Minister of Women, Family, Youth and Integration, Susanne Raab, and the Special Advisor to the Austrian Federal Chancellor and Head of ThinkAustria, Antonella Mei-Pochtler. Of course, a warm welcome also goes to all of our guests and to our distinguished guests, including diplomats and representatives from all over the world, including Ambassador Christina Freile, Ambassador Elisabeth Bogosian, Ambassador Fichtinger-Grohe, Ambassador Al-Hadid, and so many more. I think we would be here for too long if I would mention everyone now. But of course, I want to welcome everyone who is participating today, and I hope you will enjoy this conference. And on that note, I would now like to give the word to our Director, Ambassador Emil Brix. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning and welcome on behalf of the Diplomatic Academy. Welcome also our presidents, especially DASICON presidents. So thank you, Paul and Parsché, Ms. Parsché, for all your hard work, and welcome to all the other speakers, especially for the opening session, Minister Raab and Ms. Mei-Pochtler. It's the DASICON is every year one of the highlights of this academy. And it's not because of the administration or the faculty, it's because of the students. So I really congratulate the whole team. You found great speakers, and the topic is absolutely right. It's not about why, it's always about the how that we have to discuss. It's unfortunate we are online, but this is the time we are in. So let's make the best, I would say. What you have chosen as a topic is actually empowering people. And I'm saying, especially, it's not only empowering women, it's also empowering people. I'm proud to be the first man, by the way, to speak on this conference. But I say this because I'm proud that we have two ladies at the beginning. So empowering people has always a few options. You can do it from top down, or you can do it from bottom up. And as we all know, we need both, but much more we need it from bottom up. So that's why these sort of discussions are so relevant. And especially in a democracy, and we will discuss it the whole day long, I guess, democracies need constant pressure from below. Democracies need constant pressure from below. I know I sound like an anarchist, but we know that our governments in democracies need this, because otherwise there is always a tendency to go the easy way. And in our case, unfortunately, the easy way is not equality for women. The easy way is keep everything as it is. Ludwig Wittgenstein, the Austrian philosopher, said the revolutionary will be the one who can revolutionize himself, himself. So the question is, how can we do this? Let me spend 1 minute on how we try to do it at the Diplomatic Academy. And I hope you all see this if you're at the moment studying here. First of all, when I was a student here at the beginning, also after the reopening by Bruno Kreisky of this academy, we had 20% women among our students, 20%. And today we have a majority of women in all our programs. And this year, by the way, we have 64% female and 36% male. And I think these are figures, but it shows also something that can be supported by, give you one more example, that all our course speakers this year are female. All 10 course speakers are female. So congratulations and thank you that you're taking up this hard work. And I think all this is not a given, that we have more women than men here. And I remind you of what one of the peace recipients, Malala Yousafzai, said when she was attacked in Pakistan, and afterwards she wrote her books already. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. And that's a very simple sentence, but it's absolutely true. And I think that's where we have to work. That's why I'm also proud that at this academy, there is a group called SAGE, Students Advocating Gender Equality. This group had already been founded in 2014, and it's also very active this year, by the way, including also male students. So please go on with your hard work here, trying to mobilize also from below. We try here, and these are my last words for introduction, actually, at the DA, also to go the way that sometimes empowering women needs action from top. And there is one example I would like to show you. We are at the moment going for an amendment of the law of the Diplomatic Academy. And one of the issues we raise in this amendment of the law is that in the future, at least 50% of our board has to be female, which had never been the case in the history of this academy. And I can say also at the administrative level, our directorate is 50-50 between male and female. And of our departments, large majority are headed by women. Only in our resident faculty, we are still very old school. All our resident professors are male, and only our free resident language instructors are female. So you see, one could say this is very old, looks very old school. I promise I'm working on it, our team is working on it, but it takes time. And if we compare it to the Austrian Foreign Ministry, it's quite similar. The Austrian Foreign Ministry, you have at the moment 48% female employees, numbers rising. I admit in the diplomatic service there, it's only close to 40%, but this has been increasing in the last 10 years by 10%. So it's going in the right direction. And as I said, it needs consistent pressure from below. And my proposal is the below can be everyone. It's not only going on the streets, but it's also you students here. It's the young diplomats, female or male diplomats in the foreign ministry. We can all be the below to ask for to put on consistent pressure from below. As you are sure aware, a few days ago was Equal Pay Day, and it was another example which showed that Austria is not among the best in Europe yet. The gender pay gap is more than 14%, so there is work to do, meaning that women work at the moment 52 days without payment this year. And this was actually until the beginning of this week. So if we look at it like that, it was only from beginning of this week that we pay women for the same work they do as men do. Let me return to Wittgenstein. What has to be overcome is not difficulty of the intellect, but of the will. It's the difficulty of the will. So we need to activate all our possibilities that we have. And I fully believe that there is in our institutions enough pressure and power to do this, but we have to have the will to do this. So I finish with saying again, please do continue to have consistent pressure and put consistent pressure from below on all of us. I wish us a very interesting conference today, and I hope we will enjoy the day and learn from it. So again, thank you very much to the DASICON presidency.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your kind and inspiring opening words, and also for joining us today. On that note, I was notified that our speaker, the special advisor to the Austrian Federal Chancellor and head of ThinkAustria, Antonella Mei-Pochtler, is with us. I would like to welcome her warmly again. And I think we can already go medias in res. As our title already suggests, equality or gender equality is a work in progress. On that note, I would like to start off by asking you, Ms. Mei-Pochtler, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge that women face nowadays? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be with you and to talk on this topic, which is a very important topic, and an important topic for, I would say, for the whole society, and particularly for Austrian society specifically, which is the focus of our work at ThinkAustria. I think, you know, the introduction of Ambassador was very inspiring, in the sense that he finished with saying it's not the lack of intellect but of the will, with the famous Wittgenstein quote. And I think it's really we need to define what do we want, what is our will. And let me put it under the title that we need to be very clear that from being somehow marginalized, we need to take responsibility and go to front and center. And I think that that's going to front and center is something that requires not only the certain, I would say, certain pull from the top, but also clearly a push from the bottom, as ambassadors rightly said. And I think that one needs to be really willing to take this responsibility and take this place in society. And in this sense, I would like to start with a quote by the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said very clearly, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And I think that these positions of decision-making are particularly important, both in political decision-making and in company decision-making. As was said already in the introduction, we have a starting point in Austria that is relatively weak. Not only do we have, a clear pay gap, but we have a relatively weak presence of women in key decision areas. And if we go through the various areas where decisions are being made, let me start perhaps with an area which is not political, but shows also the willingness to shape. Let me start with companies. There we are particularly weak. And from my previous experience in the private sector, I can say that it was quite a rarity to find female CEOs and female board members. And this is something that needs to increase over time. So already we see that that's not, in the corporate sector, it's already weak. But particularly in the political sector, we have just a relatively low share of women parliamentarians. In general, we rank around the 24th country, of the UN. I mean, clearly there are some other countries who are below us, but it's not the place where we should have. On the ministerial level, we are quite well set because we have now with the new minister, Mr. Kocher, replacing Christina Aschbacher, we have a 50-50 ratio. So I think that's there we are better set. But then if we look and go into regional politics, particularly, and I always think, it's an interesting indicator is how many mayors do we have. And then, it doesn't look good. And preparing this with my team, we were a little bit, laughing about a small fact that there are more mayors with the name of Franz or Joseph, building on the wonderful tradition, the Francisco Josephine era, than women. So I think that's quite amazing, that you find more mayors with certain names than women in the 2096 mayors that we have in Austria. So we have just a ratio of 8, shortly, slightly above 8%, so 8.44% of women. So I think that if we look at this data, it is not it is not where it should be. Now, I think that there are what are the reasons why women should be front and center. There are a couple of one reason that I think is clear is diversity, and it's diversity of views, diversity of conditions of how you live your life, and that needs to flow into the decision making. And so this bringing diversity is important. But I think that there is beyond diversity, there is quite an important difference in the way women in politics approach the various issues at hand and the challenges that we have. And let me come to the reason why I think that it is particularly now that we need women in key decision positions. The reason being that most of the challenges that we have require very complex multi-stakeholder processes. And these complex multi-stakeholder processes in various areas. Take the COVID crisis, and I will come to that in a second. Take I would say, you know, just the many crises, the decarbonization crisis, or the decarbonization challenge, and all the other crises that we have. They require multi-stakeholder approaches and common solutions. And these common solutions are better reached by women who are used in finding the common ground more easily compared to men. And on that, there are a lot of there is a lot of research, and the research also in the corporate sector shows that women that are in corporate positions are capable to increase the value of the companies significantly more. And when you go and look at, say, you know, is it just that the better companies hire the women, and therefore there is a correlation that is not a origination of the effect. It is, in fact, it is due to a different approach in leadership, and a leadership which is more participative, a leadership which is more goes more towards building partnerships, and that creates significantly more value also for companies. And the same approach is very relevant in the political sector. So I think it's not without reason that if we look at the multilateral organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO, we now have these important multilateral organizations in the hands of women. And I think that this is a very, very positive development. And, you know, if we look at the EU, which is also clearly a multilateral, in a sense, a multilateral organization, I think that that's also the case. Now, just to finish up, what is it that we see that is particularly strong in that women bring into this topic, and I would like to connect it to the COVID crisis. There was an analysis about who has been better at responding to the COVID challenges, and every analysis has shown that governments which were headed by women performed significantly better. And it's not just, clearly, you can look at Jacinda Ardern, or you can look at Chancellor Merkel. You can look at some other examples in the Nordics. They have proven a couple of very interesting elements. First of all, they have been extremely clear on putting the health at the center early on, and acting with 4 important elements: with trust, with decisiveness, with a differentiated use of technology, and clearly more so in Asia than in Europe, also given our sort of heritage in using technology, and with, I would say, with love in general. And so I think that these women leaders have proven what we at ThinkAustria call the 7 C's of leadership in times of crisis. First of all, you need to have compassion. And compassion is very important, and it's something that women find easier to show, because they do not think that showing compassion is a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It is a sign of societal strength. Secondly, they build on very intensive cooperation between different sectors and cooperation with other countries. Thirdly, they look at citizen value as the guiding principle. Now, if you look at New Zealand, they even have, a measurement that they lead the country with a measurement that is beyond GDP and that looks very clearly at citizen value. So they even have it in the KPI, in their key performance indicators. Women are very good at dealing with complexity. I mean, every one of us knows how to deal with multitasking. It's something that a lot of people laugh about, but clearly women are used to multitask and are used to high complexity in their personal lives, and are able to combine things in parallel much more with greater easiness compared to men. And there are a lot of studies about decision processes where it's shown that women tend to balance various elements at the same time when they take decisions. So dealing with complexity is something that we are quite good at. Communication is the next C. It's the fifth C that we think is very important, and communication is something that women are very good at covering. And this communication is very important to build trust. A focus on community, on getting the power of community solutions to the front is something that women are good at. That's why I think that we should have more women mayors, because the community orientation is very strong. And in the end, the last C is the orientation towards the common cause as very, very important orientation. So if you look at these 7 C's, we think that this is something that women leaders have been very, very good at showing. Take Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway. She has been extremely strong in being, very, very authentic and very, very clear in approaching particularly children who were very scared about the COVID effects, and took a personal, compassionate position on this. As I mentioned, Jacinda Ardern, who was and is still extremely decisive, takes very quick decisions and very, I would say, tough decisions, and combines it with this tell the truth approach to every problem. If you take the president of Taiwan, I think one of the countries that has been fantastic in dealing with the crisis, Tsai Ing-wen, she has been very, very good at building the cooperation needed. And if you think of Taiwan, which is a country that has many challenges and a big neighbor, she has been extremely good at building cooperations to resolve all the issues, getting the masks and getting, all the support needed to make it. Or Katrin Jakobsdottir of Iceland, which embraced tech as one of the first one to track and trace. And particularly, I think, they were very, very good. They were the first one to start really a very, very intensive testing regime in Iceland, and also sequencing, and were very, very good at spotting new variants early on, and by really making sure that that this was, a very tech-based approach. So just these are the ones, and we can mention many others, but for the sake of time, we should finish. Let me finish up. I mean, gender equality cannot happen without men supporting it. I mean, we need to go front and center, but of course, men need to unconditionally see the value of having more women in leadership positions, and see also that only the combination, it's the combination that matters. It's the mix that matters. And to this, in this sense, I think that the fact that making sure that women take the right position in society will help all the others, I would say, we are not a minority, but the other parts of society, to claim their part into society. And I think that that is where we need to go, to a more equitable and more diverse society. And I think in this sense, we are an important stepping stone towards that vision. And that should be our vision, beyond women, just making sure that we have a diverse and equitable society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, before I introduce our other speaker, I would like to remind everyone that at the end, we will, at 9:45 onwards, we do have a Q&A session. So if you have questions, please write them to the question on the chat that you will find. And now I would like to invite our Austrian Minister of Women, Family and Youth and Integration, Susanne Raab, for her speech. Please, Minister.
Thank you so much, dear Ambassador Brix, dear Antonella, good to see you, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank you so much, thank the students of the Diplomatic Academy and the DASICON team for organizing this conference on this such important topic today. I really admire your dedication, which makes it possible, even despite these very special circumstances we are facing today. So thank you for having the opportunity to talk to you today on equality in process, empowering women, which is many things. Of course, as it is written in the title, it is discussed by different communities, and rightly so. After all, it affects us all, our society, all women and all men around the world. And of course, the topic is the basis of my daily work, thanks God. Austria sets really high standards for measuring the equality of men and women, especially during COVID now. Equal opportunities for men and women, as well as the empowerment for women and girls, are crucial, first of all, for overcoming the crisis at the moment, and then for a complete and also fast recovery. Despite the fact that, of course, gender equality is truly work in progress, we have made progress in many areas. First of all, the educational level of women has significantly increased the last years. More women than men hold an academic degree. And yes, the representation of women in politics is high in Austria. I'm so proud to be part of a government which is gender balanced, because as Antonella said, it is so important that women made themselves politics. That is so important in times of crisis and overall. Yes, we can be proud that there are so many female policymakers in Austria, but we have also, Antonella mentioned it, to raise, for example, the numbers of female mayors, which we are also working on. And then, for me, the basis for a self-determined life is a life free of violence. And this is why the fight against violence is also so, gender-based violence is so important for me in Austria and, of course, all over the world. And in Austria, we can be proud that we have a dense network of counseling centers and services for women throughout Austria. Every woman who seeks help gets help in Austria. But we have to continue and strengthen our efforts, especially as challenges remain and, of course, new challenges arise. In this context, of course, also the international context is important. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, I would like to mention, is considered to be a blueprint for global efforts and to end also inequality. The SDG goal number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls, is important to measure also the progress of this inequality and to have an international standard on that. Beyond this goal, we need a gender perspective, of course, across all these 17 sustainable development goals. And of course, to focus on Austria, it's so important for me to say that gender equality is a really central priority of the Austrian government, as it is a cross-cutting subject. So we have to focus it all in all our everyday's work. I would like to just mention two aspects. Women's economic independence on the one hand, and the protection of violence on the other hand. As I said, it's the basis for the self-determined life. Strengthening the economic independence and also the financial literacy is very crucial to me. Maybe, of course, you know it, last week we had the so-called equal pay day, and the gender pay gap between women and men is still 40.3%. So it's high gender pay gap. We have to work on that. And to close it, we need a mix of measures. On the one hand, working together with companies and employers and social partners is necessary. We have less women in the so-called STEM fields, in technical jobs, despite good job careers. And of course, in the end, it is so important to break with gender stereotypes we still have in our society, and to encourage women and girls to enter new fields where they have better job perspectives. So job orientation in this sense for young girls and women is so important. Further, the protection of violence is crucial for achieving gender equality as well as for the self-determination of all women. Violence against women continues to be a widespread social problem across the globe. It has many phases like physical violence, sexual violence, as well as psychological violence, and cyber violence is a really wide new field. Women across the world suffer from domestic violence, forced marriages, and FGM. Self-determination and economic independence is the key factor to escape this spiral of the violence. I would like to emphasize that all efforts to structurally strengthen gender equality in all areas of society are also measures to combat violence. The fight against violence is a really high priority for Austria's government, especially in COVID times, especially during the crisis, during the lockdown, where a lot of challenges focused on families. The pressure got higher, especially during the lockdowns. There was no possibility to go outside. So we really struggled hard to tell every woman that she has a place to free from violence, and if she's in danger, she can go somewhere. We are proud that Austria is often cited as an example for best practice in terms of violence prevention and protection. Regulations and support have been continuously improved. Austria is not only strongly dedicated to improve standards nationally, but of course also internationally. As you know, Austria was among the first countries to sign and ratify the Istanbul Convention, the first legally binding document to combat all forms of violence against women. And I'm proud that from 2021, so this year, to 2025, Austria is active member of the Commission of the Status of Women. Well, in the light of the current COVID pandemic, we see that the pandemic is a really big challenge, especially for women, because every day women have to make an enormous contribution to essential services, healthcare system, and in families. In all relevant sectors, of essential services, like the pharmacies, the healthcare system, the care system, the supermarkets, for example, we see that about 70 to 80, up to 80% of the employees are women. So they have to make an enormous contribution for the essential services. And of course, in families, doing home office, homework. It's the COVID crisis. It's really a challenge, especially for women. But of course, times of crisis can also be an opportunity, which is also important for me to sign out, because as a society, it is now important to promote gender equality and, of course, to ensure that women and girls can develop and display their full potential. Well, I'm looking forward to your questions, so I try to make it short. I would just in the end like to thank the Student Society SACON and the Academy for promoting gender equality. Thanks also to the student body for their organization and of this year's DASICON with a focus on gender equality, and I encourage all of you to carry forward this commitment. I wish you all an interesting day and looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your speech, which was very insightful. I would now like to give the possibility to the participants to ask questions. And I saw that we have a question from Morges Teshome. Would you like to take the floor to ask your question?
Yeah,
and I'm asking, sure. Yes, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Go ahead, Morges.
Yeah, so thank you very much for this opportunity. And the speakers are very excellent. So it is very insightful discussion so far. And a very quick question. When we talk, even based on the title of this theme, which says Equality in Progress, what form of equality are we emphasizing on? Because there are different forms of equality and stages of gender equality. And at this moment in 21st century, what is the biggest challenge in terms of equality? So that is a question maybe both of them can answer. And the second short question is based on the quote from Ambassador Brix, which is very, very good, and I like it, that there must be a change from below. So for an effective mainstreaming of gender equality, there should be, I believe, a local agency. And in terms of norm diffusion, so far, there has been an aggressive norm diffusion, including laws on gender equality. But then when it comes to localization of those norms, especially in developing countries, there is an absence of agency because of an standardized one-size-fits-all approach. So is it not a time to move from such an approach and focus on localization of those norms by giving more agency to those transnational advocacy groups? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would just like to take one more question before I give the floor to our speakers again to answer. And I think we have a question from David Raga. Would you like to take the floor?
Yes. So I have a short question for all of the speakers. Would you consider yourself a feminist?
And one final question before I give the floor from Bernhard Golob. Would you like to take the floor?
Wonderful. Good morning. Thank you very much for your words so far. Minister Raab, you once said you don't see yourself as a feminist because feminism is more about the division. It was, you said, I think, die Trennung der Menschen. I think that's not really the definition of feminism, since it's about equality and equal chances for everyone. So would you still see yourself not as a feminist, or would you still see feminism as dividing people?
Thank you. On that note, I would like to give the word to our speakers again, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for the interesting questions. First of all, where do we have to focus on when we're talking about gender equality? First of all, I think internationally, but also in Austria, still women are much more often victims of gender-based violence. So this is something, first of all, we have to focus on, where we find a huge inequality. Second, the gender pay gap, as I said, 14.3%, which is so important that women can find all their opportunities in life. Because of course, having a good financial basis is important for every decision you take. And I want women to be self-determined and having, being aware of financial literacy, and of course having your own good income is so important for the self-determination. So the gender pay gap is something which is so important. The third thing is, of course, strengthen the participation of fathers, because still I feel that, of course, it is so important for women to have opportunities to combine career and being a mother, and to having a balanced participation model at home for this combination is so important. So the strengthening of the participation of fathers is so important. And the second thing is, the second question was about being a feminist. Well, I think you said it depends on how you define it. When you define it as the fight for the equality of men and women, then yes. When you define it as the fight against men, then not, because we need men to be part of the fight against inequalities. So what is important for me, because, you know, as a woman, you always get fixed into several roles. You can be a Rabenmutter, you can be a Hausmütterchen, you know, it always, you can be a feminist or not. If you stay at home with your children for 3 or 4 years, then you cannot define yourself as a feminist. I don't like it at all. I just want to be women self-determined. I want them to choose their role themselves, and I don't want to let everyone else or everybody else tell them if they are a feminist or not. So this is what I mean. But of course, I think we have the same aim, which is the fight for equality for men and women. And if this is something which unites us, then it's perfect.
Let me build on this, and Susie, I think you put it very well. And start with the issue of what to focus on and what is equality really. And I think, you know, it's really about certainly about opportunity, but it's also making sure that there are equal rights and protection, and no discrimination in any, no discrimination. And I think that is, it may sound a bit, you know, just, I mean, but we achieved already so much, but as we know, and Susie knows it very well, we didn't achieve enough yet, and we need to continue to fight. And in this sense, you know, when on the question, am I a feminist? I think, you know, I would not put, I don't like the word, because the word is divisive and has a lot of associations which are not the right ones, but in the sense that I'm absolutely for the advancement of women and of the rights for women and the opportunities for women, then in this sense, yes, I'm pro equality, and we don't have perhaps the right word. And I think this would be an interesting challenge to you all to come up with a better word than feminism, to a new definition, because I think that, as Susie said, it is about being who you are and daring to be who you are and living up to your potential. And I would like to come to the point, the right point that was made about how do you mainstream this, and the topic of localization. I do strongly believe that one needs to localize the approaches, that it's quite important to define standards and make sure that they are lived in a localized way, and that there is a sense of agency everywhere. I think the problem of agency and self-assertiveness is one of the biggest issues in many societies. Also, I would say also in Austrian society, I think that it's something that we need to tackle in the from kindergarten onwards in the schools, that people become have a high sense of agency and of self-determination. And based on that, and I think this is also so important for every part of society, but of course, certainly for women, to be willing to take the position that you feel you are really that is up to your potential. And I think that's that I think should be our goal.
Thank you so much. To round off the panel, I would like to ask one last question to both of you. from what I've heard today, obviously there's been a lot of questions that you have been thinking of, a lot of questions that you have answered over the course of your career. So what is one question that you are the most tired of hearing today on this topic? And what would you like to say to never have to answer that question again?
Well, this is really a hard question, especially for a politician, because it's a luxury to not answer on questions. But maybe it's something like, what can women do to achieve more gender equality? You know, like we always get asked what we should do on the way to gender equality. But as Antonella said, it's so important that that we see it as a whole society approach and whole society goal, where we really need the man on our side. And this is something which we really have all to work hard that it's a fact that also men, that it's also positive effects on men when we have more gender equality, because gender equality is something which makes us as a society resilient and strong. So yeah.
I think a question that I would not like to hear anymore is really, are you a feminist? In a sense, you know, and not because I don't think that I think it's a very good question in a sense, because it puts the finger in the wound about what is it really that we women want, you know. And so I think, you know, when if we have found a different definition that brings exactly this this topic, you know, that is the right wrap of this topic, I think that then we are significantly you know, further up. And I think, you know, one thing that I was reflecting is perhaps there will be at some stage people asking, do we have enough men in that position? And I think that will be an interesting question that I would like to hear. You know, do we have enough men in position A, B, or C? When and I think we will come to that situation. I'm totally confident, actually. I mean, if I see the women that we have around and in every sector of society, I think that we can achieve a lot, and I think that we can achieve a lot for the good of society, definitely. And at some stage we will need to reflect not only, you know, do we have enough men in that position, but mainly, do we have the right approach to other parts of society that feel underrepresented? I think, you know, it's as I said before, it's about equality and diversity, and I think that is something that we should look at, and these are the questions that I'm really looking forward to.
Thank you very much to both of you, and also to Ambassador Brix for joining us today at this panel. It was really interesting and insightful, and as time has already run out, I would like to thank you for your participation. And we will shortly start with our next panel, Women in Modern Politics. And I'm hoping you will all enjoy the conference today. Thank you and wish you a nice day.